because a lot of people get stuck in that awareness and insight like bubble, and it's like, that's great until you can't do anything with it or are not doing anything with it. So this isn't about more insight. It's not about giving you more theory. It's just literally about full body alignment with real world consequence. The kind that makes every dollar, every download, and every dark night of your soul finally worth it.
And welcome back to the Consciousness of the Way. I'm here with this incredible guest. I've been looking forward to this conversation. Nicole Frolick, modern mystic and absolutely a transformational coach and a wisdom healer and teacher. And I'm very grateful to have her here today. Welcome to the podcast, my dear friend.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, it's always moments like this that we meet the moment, as they would put it with the throwaway cliche. But yet again, this is really what it is. It's a measure of where you're at in your own level of awareness. And when we have conversations like this one today, people are reminded of how potent the truth is. And when you feel it, it's no longer just words. So why don't we go straight into that very interesting conversation that we are about to have, that I'm intrigued by, that I'm already experiencing the energy of? Yay. Your modern tech version that's integrated into your teaching and how it's really helping yourself and your clients.
Yes. So I'm a little bit, I guess, some people might think I'm a little controversial in how I'm moving through the spiritual and healing community, but that's okay. I'm okay with that because I do a lot of healing work, but I'm the person that people come to when they've done all the work and still can't figure out why their life isn't moving. So I've created what I call the healing exit strategy, which is a strategy to finally end your healing journey, at least where you're at right now, so you're ready to go on to the next thing. And sometimes we get stuck in the processing and the internalizing and all of the different spiritual techniques or healing techniques or modalities that we think are moving the needle. But when we look at our life, it's not really doing that. So I don't really do healing for sport. I'm not here to hand out more insight that your spiritual ego can chew on and feel like they're some kind of guru in their own life. I'm here to get you out of the process and give you the kind of clarity where when you hear the truth, tears fall from your eyes, silence hangs in the air, and the only thing left to do is move forward. That's what I love to do. So I don't want to waste people's time telling them, listen, you need to do inner child healing, or you got to look at your mother wound or your father wound. And it's not that any of those things are wrong or bad. It's just that, is that really the thing you need to be focusing on right now? And if it is, let's get so precise and surgically clear on what it is that you have to focus on, because my job is to collapse time around your transformation so that you stop living in just your awareness and start having all of your healing work show up in your body, your business, your relationships, and your bank account.
Wow. And call the number on the screen right now, and we will get you hooked up with this very miracle. But do it quickly because you have a 30-second countdown. Wow. I'm really, it really cuts the mustard. When you mentioned that earlier, I'm kind of a no-nonsense, no bullshitter kind of guy where part of the transformational techniques within Taoism, one is a soul retrieval. I'm not a fan. It's like I'm not really that concerned about whether grandma gave you 5 cookies when you were 2 and you realized you tripped when you were 7 and mommy banished you to the attic for 3 weeks because you didn't clean your room up. These are things that are just events and nodes of energy. And when we look at it, I love the way that you're approaching this because it comes down to meeting the moment, which is energy potential. And what does that actually do within this material, which is what we refer to? We alter the material, and that can only be derived or arrived by actualizing your immortal self. And then other ways. So when you say that, more, I want more. You want
well,
more? Yes, I want more.
Let me give you more, San. So, like I said, like bridging that, like when I mentioned bridging that gap between the tech and spirituality, and I know, again, like I say, it's controversial because there's a lot of people that feel like technology is moving away, especially like the biggest one right now is AI, right? People are really scared about losing their own sovereignty, their own authority to AI. They think AI is going to take over the world and all these kinds of things. But a lot of people fail to remember and realize that the human technology is probably one of the greatest AIs here on Earth. We are AI. We're built of all these different minerals and all of it. So there is already an AI working within us. And having an AI in our world, personally, I think it's just the beginning stages. When we think about these advanced races, galactic races that a lot of people are trying to connect to or understand, I mean, they're so advanced. To think that they're not using some kind of super advanced technology that we're only in the baby stages of, I think is a little naive. And so I like to look at it as, look, it's here to stay whether we like it or not. Okay. And some people are going to feel really uncomfortable and some people are really excited about it. It's not to say that you're right or wrong either way, but my whole philosophy is, if you want it to go the way you want, you better get involved and start inputting your own consciousness into it. Right. So that's the way I kind of approached AI when it came out. So the way I operate is I combine my own high frequency psychic intelligence. I do real world energetic strategy that works and precision pattern recognition to really find the one thing that's keeping you stuck. And I call that your velocity point, right? Because as soon as we hit that point, everything starts to move really quickly. And so when I finally name it, shit starts to move in your life. And that's what I've trained an AI to do. It's basically trained on all my frameworks, my own intuitive pattern recognition, my healing exit strategy that I mentioned before, which is basically there to help you get that one thing that's going to really move, not just move things in your life, but actually start to create an organic healing domino effect throughout other areas of your life. Because I'm like, let's do less and get more, because it is possible. I think sometimes, and I'm guilty of this myself, we get so consumed with this idea of doing more and learning more and just like diving into every rabbit hole of healing or spiritual awareness that we possibly can, that we forget that there is a faster path. It doesn't mean it's the easier path. A lot of times this is the path that I name is usually the one that everyone's resisting the most. Okay. So I don't want to make it seem like this is just going to be some easy thing, but it's the most direct path and it's going to start to move things really quickly. So I've built this AI with people have, like, I have clients using it now. Um, that literally, I just had a guy email me on the weekend. He's like, Nicole, I don't know what you've done with this thing, but it's helping me out more than any coach, healer, or therapist ever has in my life. No one has been able to understand me the way this thing does. She's like, what have you done? And I have other clients who reach out and they're like in tears instantly from like the truths that are like, they land in your core because they're so precise. It's not some like, oh, you just need to love yourself more because at this age you like blah, 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 blah. It's really precise truth. And that's what I think is missing in our world right now, especially in a lot of the healing journeys. And so I've been having a lot of fun training this AI, which I call the Velocity Oracle, to basically, it channels the frameworks that I've given it with surgical precision. And it's truly one of the only intuitive AI techs out there that doesn't just reflect your patterns, it's calling out that one exact thing that's still dictating all your decisions and telling you what to do about it now. So that's kind of like where I'm at with the tech and like bridging that tech and spirituality. Cause I think that there's room for both to coexist. And I think we have to understand that that we're not in the modern times of where we sit in caves and we find ourselves. And again, it's not that there's anything wrong with that. I think there's a time and place for that. But truly, where we're going in this world, we're building something totally new that Earth hasn't seen before. And in order to do that, we've got to go way outside our comfort zone and do things we've never even imagined ourselves doing.
Amen to that. Yeah, it really is kind of in this space. I have to say, I reluctantly am in service to some digital god. I don't know. I didn't necessarily want to be here. Actually, no, I did not want to be here. About 2 years ago, my teacher said, "This is part of our own bigger picture that you must enter into." I mean, I've spent over 30 years in the shadows, just entertaining people with ancient crafts of magic that make Harry Potter look like an amateur. But that's just part of the path of what I've taught people or shown people, or be for hire for that. Altering the material is part of a Taoist path or rite of passage to actually affect change, not the, oh, I need to go outside of my body, I'm in the astral plane, blah blah blah. I mean, that seems to be popular right now, but that's great. Yep, you've got some really good mushrooms and you've gone on a happy-go-lucky trip, and hey, that's cool. Now repeat it. Now, I'm a Pepsi Challenge guy from the 80s, so I'll take the case with anybody when it comes to this stuff, because it's about actualizing things. And I think a lot of people, and this, what I'm hearing from you and what I'm seeing from you, what I'm experiencing from you, is showing me evidence that you talk the talk and walk the walk. I don't really sugarcoat things when titled priest. I just so happens that I teach everyone any form of sensory perception that is available, which is an unlimited amount. Clairvoyance, mediumship, channeling, healing, blah, 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 blah. It all goes on, but it's about show me. And so the really important thing is the change or affect a change, and what you're speaking of, your velocity point, that point where people are igniting a truth serum within this material state that makes it actualized, that makes it possible, that something in their head is materialized and actually affected now. Not, oh, I had a fleeting moment, I saw grandma, I could see auras, and and these are things that people go through, but it's like what we refer to within Taoism, a bite of the spiritual dragon. It's never fully cooked. It's an undercooked sort of an egg, and that's where people become inverted, where they go, I'm an oracle, I'm a healer, I'm a channeler, I'm a Reiki master. These are all great, but they're diminished return. So
Yes.
please
I
expand on
uh,
what you're talking about.
okay, so I love that you said people mostly get a bite of the spiritual dragon, but they don't actually,
Right.
one, become the spiritual dragon, right? Which I'm all about. Like, let your fire burn and like start transforming stuff, because that's really ultimately what fire is for, right? It's like that death and rebirth, that becoming the phoenix that rises from the ashes. And so I love that you said that. And I think that's one of the things too. Look, I've been on my healing journey for a very long time, over 30 years. I started when I was 17 and I'm now 48. So like I've done a lot like you. Like I've gone the very long route in order to, I believe for me, my life path was to go through all this stuff so I could find the one thing that's going to really help people. And obviously, the more that you go into your journey, the more evolved you should be becoming, but also recognizing that some of the things that you've used maybe just aren't useful anymore and shouldn't be you should be like let go, right? Like that's part of the journey. So when it comes to, I know you mentioned mushrooms. Like that's one of my favorite things right now is I actually work with mushrooms, but it's not one of the things that I do differently than a lot of people, because like I guide people through mushroom journeys to help them get a major transformation. But I'm really working with you first before we even attempt the journey is we have to like know exactly what we is going to be your North Star, what the mushrooms are going to truly help you with, and get so clear so that your consciousness level of what's going on is so high that now the mushrooms can meet you at that level and get you the biggest bang for your buck, so to speak, on going through that journey. And so I think some people look at the medicine, any kind of plant medicine, whether it's ayahuasca, peyote, like whatever it might be, mushrooms, they look at it as the thing, and it's not. It's going to meet you at wherever you're at. So the higher we can get you at in consciousness level, the better your journey is, and the stronger and more visceral the effects will be for your actual life. And so a lot of my clients, they're very high level. They've done a lot of this work. They're not new to it. They've done the therapy, they've sat in ceremony, they've cracked themselves open and stared their shadow in their face, but they're still realizing that the results are not matching that level of inner clarity that they hold. So that's where I come in and locate that exact energetic point, what I call the velocity point, which is where we collapse not just the pattern, but we collapse time and return you back to command, because a lot of people get stuck in that awareness and insight like bubble, and it's like, that's great until you can't do anything with it or are not doing anything with it. So this isn't about more insight. It's not about giving you more theory. It's just literally about full body alignment with real world consequence, the kind that makes every dollar, every download, and every dark night of your soul finally worth it. And that's like the kind of work that I feel is really missing in our space, because people are investing so much of themselves, their time, their money, their soul, and still not feeling like they're getting those results. And so this idea of really allowing yourself to not just consume the knowledge and become very wise in theory, but actually wise in your life path that you are walking down, that's the most important part of this journey. Because if you're not going to walk it, then you're just another kind of book that people can talk to, maybe, in conversation. And there's, again, nothing wrong with books, but we're here to live. We're here to learn through life experience. So until you're actually experiencing it, then it's just still theory.
I agree. I mean, this bite of the spiritual dragon is a very common misdirection for probably 99% of people that I come across. And again, most of the people that end up on my doorstep are masters of this and that, whatever. Yet they have never mastered the concentration of the constitution of this avatar. So what I refer to as spiritual bypassing is, I'm in my heart, my head. Oh, I'm Brahman, I'm cosmic consciousness, I'm all things. And they arrive, yet the diminished return is quite evident. Over the 30 plus years I've been teaching people alchemy, you watch them crash and burn. The average healer lives between 40 and 60. Most times they bump over a 50 and then hasta la vista, my friend, because they cannot contain. They're extra introverted. What that means from a Taoist path is yin is the absorption of all colors, yang is the emission of all colors. And your mission, if you choose to accept it, Ethan Hunt, is to find the center point, the Vesica. And once you enter it, you realize you are it. You're all things and nothing at the same time. And that is conceptual until otherwise noted, because you have to be able to master the tapestry of this material realm and curtail it and distort it and return it to whole with this substance we call fajin. It's like the chi, the prana, whatever you want to call it. Yet mastering it is like being able to play with it like the soup, and interplaying and altering at will. And this is not a delayed thing, or if I affirm enough, I'm going to get this thing, or if I sit here and I dream enough, no, it's all created. So what you have to realize is when you Shazam the alchemy, it becomes realized. And that sounds very similar to what you're speaking of in relation to how you teach people, because people become too inverted and they're like intuitive and I'm knowing and I'm a healer and I'm a psychic, and they exhibit all these abilities, yet because they're not embodying this avatar and pouring the foundation that makes it whole so that you can hold the resonance, because the currency of this material state is energy potential. It's vibratory, frequential, and holds resonance. If you can hold that resonance, oh yes, it will be yours, meaning equal to or greater than, and you're going to have the velocity point that you're speaking of that becomes actualized. We refer to entering that into the Wu Ji, which is the primordial mother, and we refer to that as Wu Wei. When you hold that resonance, it's Wu Wei, effortless action, effortless effort. Everything is serendipitous, synchronistic, and it's good to be you. And so please elaborate on that.
I'm so glad that we're having this discussion, because it just it makes me smile in all my cells when I hear another person sharing the same sentiment that, you mentioned at the beginning. So many people are like wanting to leave their body and astral travel and all of that. And again, I want to make it clear, there's nothing wrong with any of that. In the beginning, that's the fun part. You want to go explore, you want to see what's possible. I don't blame anyone for wanting to do any of that. However, if you want to become a master at this reality, you better love being in your body. You better love, as you say, this avatar, and know how to operate from those higher realms through this skin suit. Because this skin suit, like I said at the very beginning, is one of the best technologies on this planet. It'll surpass every technology that any of us start to build. AI, it's so small in comparison to what we are capable of. But no one's truly, I don't want to say no one, very few of us are truly exploring its potential, because the reason why a lot of people are not getting the healing results that they want, or the spiritual experiences that they would like to have, is because you're not in your body. You can't ground the experience in this reality. So you may have the experience out there in a different reality, in a different dimension, through your meditation, in your dreams, whatever it might be, on a mushroom journey, an ayahuasca trip, all fine. But can you do it in this body? Can you actually walk it and breathe it and move this reality at your will, because you're grounded? The more that you love being in your body, the more you're capable of handling certain emotions and frequencies at levels that you don't even know you could potentially hold. So for instance, like, I have a retreat that I do twice a year. And this is where a group of people will come, and I do a guided cacao ceremony, and then we do a guided mushroom journey the next night. And this is all about getting you the kind of transformation that changes your life in just 3 days. But in order for me to make sure that everyone is where they need to be, and to be able to see the truths that I need to see, that you're avoiding and you don't want to admit, but I know is going to completely shift your life if we like dive into them. And then as healers, like you said, a lot of them will die between the ages of 40 and 60. And it's because you don't know how to hold the frequency in your body. You burn out. And it's literally like going to like energetic gym. Okay. It's spiritual gym, where you have to learn how to hold the frequency for longer periods of time, so that the space that you are commanding for healing to take place within the individual, that they are totally generating themselves, right? It's so important. I remember the very first time I did my retreat a few years ago, we were all preparing for the mushroom journey, and we had done a small hike, like a very easy hike through the mountains. We were at high elevation. We're kind of walking through the forest, and then we came back. And as soon as I got back into our home where the ceremony was taking place, I felt a surge of energy just starting to flow through me. It almost knocked me over. And I had to sit down for a second, and I realized that my guides, my spiritual team, my higher self were all working to help open me up, so that they could channel through, help pull through the energy that I was going to need for the space for people to have the kind of journeys that they did. And I felt myself literally, without any medicine, go into the medicine frequency the entire time everyone was on their journeys, and having my body move and do things like creating sigils in the air and all of this kind of stuff, doing energy work over people to help them move through their journey, to the point like where when it was finally all said and done, and I don't mean just the journey, I mean the actual retreat, is when I finally was like, oh my gosh, I can breathe. And I just started to realize I think I need to sleep for a few days. But I was able to hold that energy for so long, which I'd never been able to do before. And it's because I'm constantly working on not just like being in my body, but appreciating this body for what it's offering me in this lifetime to experience on this journey. Without this body, none of us would be able to have the journeys that we're having. And I feel like it's the final missing point to a lot of people's high level spiritual journeys that they're on, where they're becoming the masters of many beautiful things, but then not integrating it into this reality through the body. And it's because you have to learn how to hold that kind of frequency for longer and longer periods of times, or you will burn out. And you need to know when to let go and when to keep going, because that's an important also, it's where the spiritual ego can come in and say, hey, no, just keep going. I've been there. I'm like, I can keep going. I can keep going. But you have to know when it's enough, and you got to prepare and work out for the next event. So I feel like the missing key is the body for a lot of people. And when they finally realize what's possible, that's where your healing miracles start to come in. I remember at my very first retreat, I had someone who couldn't hear out of their left ear for 19 years. Okay. Barely, to the point where I needed to always stand on his right side of his ear in order for him to hear me talk. The day after his mushroom journey, where he saw all of these celestial beings descend upon his brain and in his ear start using all of these different sort of utensils and tools that he couldn't even name, and they were just doing all of this work on him. The next day his healing was completely, like, his hearing was completely restored. And but here's the thing, you need to know how to receive that energy, right? You can't receive energy if you're not willing to hold it. Otherwise, it just goes right through you, right? So here's the other thing. One of the other things I've noticed, and this goes across the board for so many people, the more you learn how to hold higher frequencies and more energy, to the point it makes you uncomfortable, to the point where you're like, ooh, okay, this is starting to feel a little anxious. Maybe I'm just anxious. Ooh, this starts to feel a little scary. Maybe I should just stop. No, no, no. This is a high frequency that you have not yet reached, that you need to learn how to calibrate at. And when you calibrate at, you will see more abundance come into your life, because now your container can hold more than you ever knew possible before. And that's what I love working with people on, is like teaching them and guiding them through that process of like, don't let it go yet. Keep holding, learn how to bring it in. You are so powerful. You can hold more. Just keep growing, expand your container to receive more than you've ever known you were worthy of receiving or able to receive ever before. And that is like a huge game changer for a lot of people.
Yeah, you pour the foundation, that's what the alchemy is for. And so,
Mm-hmm.
on your journey of what we call the transformative skill, we refer to it as Shen Gong, where just as we evoke the Nidan, which is internal alchemy, which produces Ni Gong, which is internal power, you embody Shen Gong, which is the immortal self. And so then you alter everything. And that's just part of the transformative skill. So, seeing flesh mend itself before your very eyes is a common practice that I've witnessed over 30 years. I mean, I got the steroid effect of it literally first go, watching gangrenous flesh go back to pink in color in 40 minutes. A foot that
Ooh.
you've been amputated. I've seen like gashes seal before my eyes, bones fuse, tumors disappear. I mean, it's unlimited potential, yet you have to be able to hold the resonance, and the bullshit gets very little run in this state. And so, I think personally, part of my own actualization had to do with embodying the physicality, the tactile effect of it at a very young age. I spent most of my teenage years from the age of 10 to early 20s as a bodybuilder and powerlifter. So that made it possible. I hit a tip where I had literally, I was doing 800-pound squats, 800-pound deadlifts, not for one, for 3 reps. And people are
Oh
like,
my
"Can you
goodness.
say that one more time?" Absolutely. I mean, I idolized a guy, and people can look this guy up, Fred Hatfield, and he inspired me. And I was a little naive because I was mentored by a guy that was 100% on roids, but he never clouded my judgment or polluted my mind with limitation. He just taught me everything about nutrition, and I used that and the fact that my body was producing so many hormones through training that I didn't need any additives. At the age of 15, at 187 pounds, at 4% body fat was my first competition. But you get diluted because when people come in, it's just like the spiritual stuff, right? And the charge we're getting right now, where you're picking up what I'm putting down, your body's chilling and isolating at the same time. That's it. We're picking up the same resonance and we're holding it. And this is a communion right now. That is the truth. But it's like people don't realize it's like you are limited by nothing. The arriving of Taoist alchemy is being able to bring immortality, crystallize it into the material. Plug for my book, actually just published it 2 weeks ago. But that's not the point. This is how you do it. Your velocity point, I believe, is very similar to the arrived actualization of what I'm speaking of, because it shows. You have to see it. This is no more bullshit. I mean, if I wanted to entertain you, I'd take my arm, run a skewer through it, pull it out. You wouldn't see the entry or exit wound because I alchemized the body and basically creating anesthesia in the flesh. And so all of a sudden, things are possible. Channeling is the same. I'm an old school channeler, been channeling 36 years. My teacher, he's my teacher right now, second by second. He's sitting right there. I see him as I see you. I hear him as I hear you. I'm having a round table with all my teachers right now and I'm not 3 cents short of a dollar. Or as Crockett would say from Miami Vice, I didn't leave my groceries at the meat market. This is just, and more people are starting to understand and accept that they are not deluded, that they don't have mental illness, which seems to be, 30 years ago, I'd do an exorcism on someone that was fearing psychotic episodes. You are insane. You have mental disease. And all I do is teach them how to master what they saw and heard as an apparition or a delusion, when in actuality, they were accessing a point of awareness that needed to be regulated. Stress, adaptation, and expansion. It's a conditioning. That's what it's about. The conditioning is so critical. And I believe that's what you share with your clients, is helping them realize that once they condition themselves, things become actualized.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's always good to do the basement level stuff. I refer to that as the basement level. I teach my kids this. The first thing I ever taught them was how to hypnotize someone, how to quickly get them into a state of awareness. And hypnotize is such a dirty word. It's a state of trance. It's a state of awareness. You have to realize how fast you can obtain that state and be there. And so if I could walk up to someone in the street, not mention the word hypnotize, put them into a trance and have them forget their name, and I look like Justin Bieber in like 30 seconds, and their friends are videotaping, holy shit, what's going on here? Oh, it's Justin Bieber. And I look nothing like Justin Bieber. This is what you can do. This is your velocity point that you're speaking of. And so how do we get there, Nicole? I want to understand, what are some of the secrets that you could just give us a little taste of something. How do we bring people back to remembering their potency?
Okay, so I'm going to actually explain it through an example, like a recent example, literally the one that just happened last week, I think, or so. Again, it's something that I outlined in my healing exit strategy that people can, join and learn exactly how to do it for themselves, like in their own life. Like I explain everything. But basically, the velocity point in the short of it all is the intersecting point where the body, the mind, and the soul all agree without a shadow of a doubt that this is the exact place where your focus and your energy and your healing and everything needs to go right now. That's basic, and it's an intersecting point. And when you hit the velocity point, that's when you collapse time, because people don't understand. How do you get transformation so quickly with your clients? Like I've literally I can do it not just in like, of course, weeks, okay, days, even hours with some of my clients. And again, it depends on the level of the client and how willing they're ready to surrender, because surrender is a huge component of it. And everyone's going to be different, but it is possible. It is possible. And so we find this velocity point, which again is the intersecting point of the mind, the body, and the soul, where they are all in 100% agreement that this is where your focus and all your energy needs to go. Okay. That's when you collapse time. So, how do I do that? I look first, we talk about the body. I think, again, I love the body. I wrote a book like, I don't know, almost 10 years ago, self-published it. And it's just like a kind of a little like eat, pray, love journey of my own self-love kind of, journey. And but in that was like the basis, the foundation of everything that I do. And it was my body that became one of my greatest teachers. I learned so much from my body. And so in my work, I utilize the body because I believe it's one of our greatest messaging systems. The body is here to tell you, whether it's through physical ailments or issues, um, any kind of stress that the body is undergoing that is now coming up as a symptom or ailment is something that you need to look at. But then it's like, okay, you have that, for instance, low back pain. Okay, that's a pretty common one that a lot of people will have. Well, low back pain across the board usually means that you don't feel either emotionally supported or financially supported. Okay, and there's something going on there where you don't have that, and so that's kind of letting you know that you're missing certain structures in your life that are lacking in one or both of those areas. And that's a very basic rundown of it, but I look at the body and then I decode the emotional problem behind the physical. So once we kind of get that, I start looking for patterns, right? And my intuition kind of knows where to kind of bounce into, but it's not that hard. You can start to see patterns arising when you start to look at all the different symptoms coming up as you start to decode the body. Then what I use for the soul is astrology. Now, I'm not looking at what's your sun sign, what does it mean about your personality. Like, I'm not looking at astrology for that reason. I'm looking at it in a very specific way. I'm looking for very key specific points that are going to tell me what your soul came into this lifetime to grow and learn from, what it's used to from the past lives, or in your early lifetime. If you don't believe in past lives and you just believe this is the only one, then it's about what you went through in your early part of this life. Okay. But I'm looking for, what is it that your soul wants to evolve and grow through, which is usually your outside your comfort zone. Okay. And then also, what is your purpose and your destiny? Okay. Now, with those two things, I can start to get a little bit more information on what are the certain lessons that your soul is going to need to go through that maybe you're avoiding or not understanding, that when you move through it, you are now fulfilling your soul's destiny and evolutionary growth choices that you made before incarnating, which means now you're in alignment, right? So when you are in alignment with your soul's desires before it even came into this body, that means shit's going to start moving real fast for you in your life, right? So once I go, and then I go through some more patterns of that. Now, once I start to look at specific key placements and all of that, I now overlay the body emotional root patterns with the soul lesson patterns. And lo and behold, something always sticks out like a sore thumb. And it is always the thing that people are resisting or didn't think was that important to look at. And it's funny how we can do that in our journey, where we're like, well, no, 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 I got to focus a little more on here. I think I'm good there. We have a way of rationalizing it. So let me give you an example, because this literally just happened last week with a client where she was like, Nicole, I just want to be in connection with my God source energy, sit with God. And I want to be at peace in my body, peace in my soul. And I just want to be happy. Okay. Which is kind of vague, but it's what she wanted. So I was like, okay, let me look through everything. And she felt like the one thing that she was really tired of was this consistent fight or flight, like that freeze or fawn kind of energy. And she was misreading her anxiety and her fear as being out of alignment with source, with God. And after I looked at everything and I laid it out and I said, and I'm very blunt because I feel like in this time of our lives, some people really need the bluntness. Now I do it with love. I'm not here to be an asshole. I'm just, but I don't want to waste your time. I just want to give you what you need to know. And so I cut out a lot of the fluff and I said, look, you think that when you're going through these nervous bursts of anxiety or fear, that you are out of peace, which therefore means you're out of alignment with your core mission to stand with God in peace. But the reality is, and the very hard truth is that God energy isn't just peace. God energy is everything, right? And you've got to know how to face conflict. And if it rattles your peace, what are you going to do then? Because not everything is going to be peaceful in your life. It's not meant to be. You cannot grow if you're living in a consistent frequency of peace. I hate to say it, but it's kind of true. And I'm pretty sure you are agreeing with me there. Look, you can reach higher states of peace and hold them for longer, but we're all going to have to go through conflict at some point. So what I then looked at was in her astrology chart. We have something called the ascendant or the rising, the sun and the moon, okay, are the three main things, the two luminaries and the ascendant. Her ascendant was literally conjunct to the very almost minute of the degree with the planet Uranus. Uranus is the planet of shock, sudden change, electricity, literally, it's like a lightning bolt of energy. So when you start to get nervous energy coming through you all of a sudden, it's that lightning bolt energy that it is who she is. She was literally denying her own coding by God. God created her like this, right? So this was her own blueprint. And I said, every time you sacrifice this energy that's coming through you that you think is nerves, that you think is fear, because you want to be in the name of peace, you are losing an opportunity to align yourself to a higher frequency with God. And I said, every time you dismiss it or you try to remove that fear and anxiety, it's because you coded it as that, you've mislabeled it. But really, like I said before, how do I help my clients hold more energy than they've ever known before? It gets very uncomfortable. I've been there. I know it. I was shown it on my very first mushroom journey. I was sitting by the water, a rapid river, like ice melting from the snow caps of the mountains. So it was June, and it was so rapid. Like there was no way anyone could survive in there. And I sat there, and the water started to speak to me. The river started to speak to me. And I started to see the bubbles in high definition. And the sound was getting so intense. And the wind and everything was just getting so amplified because I was so in tune with it and allowing myself to pick up on things I'd never allowed myself to pick up on. And I instantly had a thought, whoa, this is getting to be too much for me. Let me go back to my little spot where I have my blankets and my pillows under the trees and return to where it's safe, where there's peace. And I heard the river say, no, we need you to stay here and learn how to receive more than you've ever received before. If you want the kind of life that you're asking for, you better learn to receive more or you're going to stay exactly where you are. And I was like, okay. And so I sat there and I learned how to recalibrate myself and bring the peace in by allowing and surrendering to the energy without trying to fight it. And so that's what I was telling her. I'm like, you need to learn that this energy is a recalibration of your entire soul. This is what God is wanting you to elevate at, but you keep turning it off in the name of anxiety because you just want peace. And so when she finally heard, she's like, oh my gosh, she goes, she started to do the rituals and ceremonies that I gave her. And I said, you start doing this. And every time you feel this, understand you've got to learn how to hold it in your body. And like that is something that is exactly like how I see a lot of times people run away from their velocity point because they mislabel it. They think it's something else in the name of something that they believe they're supposed to attain. Do you not see that so often?
Yeah, I mean, there's like it's a trail. It's a rite of passage. So you're Sherlock to your Watson from human condition through the labyrinth of the finite mind. You come out the other end as human beingness. But through that is a path. It starts with the spark of divinity, and that grows into curiosity. But furthermore, you must have inquiry. And that inquiry then evokes contemplation. Contemplation is the harborer and nurturer of that superpower, hopium. And hopium basically gives birth to a belief system. That's the crossroads. That's the
Mm-hmm.
crossroads for most people, because you can be half baked and repeat the same half baked, conjured, Groundhog Day shit and make it realize that your glass is half empty for the rest of your life if you choose to accept it, because it's evoked with a thought, feeling, and emotion that's actualized as an experience. And an experiential moment is what you have. That's where you leap from belief system to knowing. And of course, the knowing grows into wisdom. Wisdom is where the power comes from, is when you can just slip line that straight from creation to completion and then rebirth. This is what we call the great bellows, where everything is contracting and expanding at the same time. You're all things and nothing at the same time.
Mm.
You have an option to enter into that center and dissolve into everything at once. And so really, when you're at your lowest, you're really at your highest. And so being able to
The
alchemy.
door is very, very open at that point. Yes.
Right. And
Yeah.
so I agree with you. This happens so often that I mean, people become disheartened, delusion. They don't realize that they're having what I call the Mr. Miyagi effect.
Mm-hmm.
So I train people in the alchemy of that, and they're
Mm-hmm.
like, but Jifu, I mean, that sounds like a paradox. My head's blown. I can't do anything. Hang on a second. I want you to breathe in, hold it, exhale. Holy shit, I just captured the essence of this very moment. Now play with it like the master that you are. Here we are, masters of the universe. Yeah, I mean, this is it, man. This is that velocity point you speak of, because you have to accumulate the spiritual credits, and it comes alchemized within the physical body. This is your barometer, your tuning fork, and you're able to make it real. It's not a figment of your imagination. You can slip in and alter it as you choose to, and the evidence will be the proof is in the pudding. It's like,
Yes.
I mean, one of the biggest things within Taoist alchemy is magic. And we love laying the magic down because the magic starts with creation, completion, and the rebirth. That's the trilogy, the trinity, the actualization. And we use karma as the foundation for that. Anyone that is a servant to their emotions makes them very suggestible. So magic lays down a completion blueprint. So when
Mm-hmm.
I hand out that resonance, it completes everything as whole. So that means that you have the holy shit moment. If you're walking in the room, you're going to love or hate someone due to the resonance that they hold, making it either more dualistic or non-dualistic from the ability for things to be coherent or divergent. And that's where we get the power from that. You have to be able to actualize it. You hold it. That's where the gurus, people come to
Yeah.
gurus, they want to sit in a room and get high on Dalai Lama's contemplation, because the mastered resonance is there. Man, I didn't do anything, but I started drooling, and holy crap, man, I can't see straight. I'm high as a kite. I'm high as AF. What's going on? Because this is a mastered resonance that is being held, and you're returning to home, and you're getting to experience it. And you're like, I want more of that. This is so familiar. And that's your velocity point. I'm seeing that from everything that you're teaching. That's a very powerful point to actually, as you said, align the spirit, mind, and body as one. This is really what we refer to as the most powerful currency. The most powerful currency and commodity in this material state is your attention. And when you meet it with intention, Shazam, what happens is you actualize the spirit.
Yeah. Yeah. And like you said, I think that's one of the things too, like when you're in this state, you are about to die and be reborn. And that scares people because they don't really understand it. So like they may not conceptually understand that in the moment, but truly that's what's happening. Like in this moment, when I was sitting on the rocks and I wanted to leave, I wanted to stay exactly as I was. But by allowing myself to go through this alchemy of energy and allow myself to expand my container in a different way and hold kind of frequencies that I've never held before, I literally went through a little mini death and rebirth in that moment, right? And so that's what is so scary, is that you're leaving behind the person you've always been so that you can become the person you know you're meant to be. And it doesn't mean that that part of you wasn't worthy. It's just, it's time to let go and move on, right? Like you've already been there. You've done that. It's time to go where you haven't been before. And that is what really scares a lot of people because it's an unknown, right? We say that, you know, a lot of people mistake this idea of safety, you know, with like this idea of feeling safe with good. And I don't want to I don't want to confuse people by, it's important to have a certain level of safety. You want to feel like solid in your foundation, okay? But you also have to know when it's time to go beyond the safe place so that you can grow and expand, which means discomfort, which means a little fear is going to come up, a little anxiety is probably going to enter your nervous system, right? So it's not that they're all bad things. They're kind of the precursors of the change you're asking for. But a lot of us are conditioned now, especially through a lot of the healing and spiritual videos we see on TikTok and Instagram and YouTube and the podcast. Like, it's like nervous system regulation. That's what you want. And I'm like, yeah, no, I get it. You do want to calibrate your nervous system to some degree, but not to the point where you're saying no to the next level. You know, not where you're saying no to the thing that's kind of trying to come in and bring the change that you've been asking for. You've got to understand when it's the time to have a calibrated nervous system where it's like, okay, this is a good time for peace, and understand, oh, there's a little anxiety and fear here. It's because it's time to grow, right? And I think that's where a lot of there's a missing piece there that is not getting talked about, and that's where a lot of people are getting stuck because they're like, well, like this one client, which is very common. Even I've been there, so like I say it with love because I know I've been there. Everything that I talk about is because I've been through it. You know, it's not because I read it in some book. 90% of what I do is all my stuff that I've learned through my own experience. And so it's so important to understand that a lot of the things that we resist and we think, oh, no, that's not good for me. Some of those things are actually the very thing you've been calling in. And now you're saying, no, thanks. Not like that. Not ready for it to feel just quite like that yet. I want it in a different package. I want it in a different feeling. So, you know, I don't disturb the piece that I've worked so hard to create. And it's like, no, you've reached that level. It's time to move on.
Yeah, the selfishness requires the selflessness, and that's how you evoke the sacrifice. And that sacrifice is the fringe benefits of your personality fueled by the finite mind that is bankrupt and repeats the same behavior over and over again, expecting a different outcome. To alchemize intelligence, intellect, and intuitive states as one, you must be able to fuse and unify. And that's where you meet your maker. That's the stream, the infinite stream that goes from the spirit to the consciousness. And of course, ultimately, we refer to it within Taoism as the mother, the void, the magnetic magnetism of all things. You are the shiznit. You are eternal, immortal, forever, forever. And that's that stream that cannot be altered. You know, anything from, just a quick on metaphysics of Tao. It's the mother is the animation, the void is the animation to consciousness, consciousness is the animation to spirit, spirit's the animation to energy, energy is the animation to the material. The material is a distorted state of lower frequential energy potential. And so most people contemplate within the spiritual baby shit of the body and the energy, never actualizing their spirit and having imperium dominion over this state, being the maestro to their orchestra. It never happens. You have to be able to have complete imperium over the 50 trillion cells that you possess as the flesh and blood that looks back at you in the mirror and you recognize as your identity. This is the avatar that makes everything all fun and fuzzy and exciting as you are an immortal having a human being experience on vacation somewhere, doing whatever it is you choose to. But that never turns from mortal to immortality, because we're met with that finite perspective and you get conditioned to be limited, that you are the mind, not the mind of you.
Yes.
And so
yes.
what happens is people that well, what you feel? Because the truth be known, as that moment, you are everything. I've never witnessed any type of transformative manifestation, magic, healing that wasn't in the present moment and did not require my participation at all, ever. And that's how it works. My common denominator is most people come to me, grandma's in a coma, the doctor gave her 24 hours, she's going to die. And they're like, that someone told me to call you. Is there anything that, and straight to grandma. Yeah, you kind of made her feel like shit. She said that she felt like she had a broken heart. And, quite frankly, she had no real motivation to continue to hang on here. Like, oh no, I love grandma, blah, blah, blah. And literally within 24 hours, awake, vitals regulated, and we're off to the races. Best I've ever seen is 20 years additional on top of that moment of death. And that only ends when you give up. You give up on yourself. You give up on knowing you are whole and recognizing that the eternal immortal self is forever. And that's when all of a sudden diminished returns start to basically pollute the waters. The implication within the material world is quite evident. Mortality is imminent. And that's where most of the healers, they fall in the shit river. Things continue to disintegrate and fall in on itself. They collapse. Just as you mentioned, you collapse time and things of that nature. When someone holds on to an inverted effect of intuition and it's so potently yin and it's not infused with yang within the material state as whole, you will always play that boundary of what we call the symbiosis within this material state. You are dancing between the tango of yin and yang instead of merging the two together, which is a mastered state of awareness. So the healers, when you see ones that are really, there's no return, you're going to see it. It's going to emanate through the body, whether it's sickness or physical distortion. So you see a lot of like clairvoyants that literally have like 100 pounds they need to beat off themselves. And they're like, whoa, what are you calling me fat? No, you are holding on to this energy, man. And you're paying the price. It's what we call you're sacrificing yourself. You are selling your soul because you are inverting. The price is you want this superpower. It will be given to you, but you are not regulating the body. You're not recognizing that that's how this simulation is being experienced. So if you don't regulate the body, the imminent result of your superpower is a short-lived life. Does that make sense?
I literally had a friend who went through that exact same thing, and she's no longer here.
Right.
And you know, bless her, beautiful soul. But yeah, that was her downfall.
Right.
That was her downfall, and not allowing and confusing that it was having more weight so she could hold more energy, as opposed to, no, you're piling it on and not releasing what isn't yours and allowing for the energies to actually, like you said, merge and work together. So I completely agree with you on that one.
And you see it, for me, I see it within this space. Most people posture as martial arts experts. I teach people Tai Chi, Bagua, Kung Fu, whatever. That's really doesn't mean or amount to anything if you don't have the juice. If you can't activate the alchemy, you have nothing. It's like you can just posture yourself. It's like some diminished person sitting in the corner of the room at a gym, and they're lifting weights and they're following the men's fitness exercise program of the month, yet they've got bigger breasts than the average female that's walking through the door, and they're a eunuch. And they're like, oh my goodness, you're horrible. How could you say that? It's like you are seeing the effects of not meeting this moment. It's like you can fantasize all you want about I'm the very eccentric a psychic that has a more feminine side. Dude, you are drawing this stuff in and you are torturing yourself. And my personality can't have it. It's like I'm going to share it with you, and you can kind of not like it or like it. But the truth is, you have to condition yourself for healing. And people
No,
that
I
don't know. I
feel
mean,
like you're the
maybe
male.
the
I feel
diarrhea
like
is
you're,
coming out.
yeah, no, I feel like you're the male counterpart to me, like, because I'm the exact same way. It's like I want to call it, I'm going to name it, I'm going to say what it is, because that's the problem with I thank God we've got Neptune that's moved out of Pisces and into Aries now, because there's been too much spiritual bypassing, too much like sugarcoating in the name of ascension. And I know it's just, I'm going through these feelings because they're ascension symptoms. I have a cold because like whatever. And it's like, okay, maybe, but let's like maybe look at everything. And and that's what I love to do, and that's why I created this AI, because she's literally like me. She's got my personality too. She's a little sassy. She's going to be very direct, no BS. She's not here to like placate you or like fluff up your spiritual ego just for the sake of it. She's not trained on affirmations. She's trained on like my own psychic pattern recognition and my frameworks that collapse time, like find the velocity point. And it basically will tell you what most practitioners won't say. Okay. And she delivers it in minutes, like literally minutes. And so a lot of people, they don't realize that they're not stuck because they haven't done the work. A lot of people have done a lot of work. They're stuck because no one handed them the one pattern worth betting their entire whole damn journey on. And that's what I love doing. I can tell that's what you love doing too. When people are coming to you, you're like, let me just say the one thing you actually don't want to hear, but it's going to change everything for you. And I think that's where we have to start leaning into, because it's like enough with like the spiritual placating just to like feel good and like pretend that you're further along than where you should be. And again, it's not for lack of effort. It certainly is not for lack of effort. It's lack of precision. It's lack of undeniable truth that is often one that's going to make you cry, make you feel like you just got a gut punch. Okay. But it also brings in that relief that you finally no longer have to search. Like, that's what I love. That's what I'm always looking for. And I can tell, like, that's also what you do in your work. I got to have you on my podcast. I think we would have a fun time.
Oh, I would love that. I would love that.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, something simple, right? Something that people posture so much about, and lately this astro projection shit it's like out of control, sleep paralysis, all that kind of stuff. People are literally dining out on this stuff, and they're full of shit. They're not actually being able to activate it, but that's kind of part of the shit barometer that you and I can see. I'll give someone a psychic reading in 30 seconds, give you a mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual state by just reading the energy. And when I say reading the energy, that's all I'm doing. I'm looking at your aura, and I'm looking at your emotion to virtue, which is attached to each one of your energy centers. And it just hands the information to me. It's like I'm reading a menu. People are like, how the hell did you do that? Well, I didn't do shit. I just looked at the information sitting right in front of me. It's not a difficult thing to refine as it's a cultivational practice like anything else. And so many people are like, oh, sure, give me a psychic reading, magic man. And I'm like, okay. But I start at the bottom. I always start at the earth, which some people will call the transpersonal point, and then what someone would refer to within a Hindu practice as a root chakra. We call them dantians within Taoism. It's the energy elixir field. It's the tapestry of immortality that's anchoring the flesh. And once you synchronize it, you're off to the races. So you start off at the root, always giving people their parameters, their limitations, their safety zone, if they have one. Most people don't, but they have expectation of overreaching in everyone else's. Yet when it comes to them, they expect you to hold your P's and Q's. It's quite common. It's really interesting how that works. And then when you hit the sexual energy, they're like, whoa, 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 whoa. Okay, how the hell do you know that? And I think we're done. Because, hey, look, it doesn't get any easier than that. I don't need you to tell me I'm the next coming of Jesus. I couldn't care less. And that's the part where people get, oh, wow, I'm not looking for you. We call it in Taoism, Chigo, not ego, but Chigo, where people get caught up in that substance, and they die a very short-lived life, because being one thing, like you find channelers that are exhausted. I'm channeling all day long. If I do a node point where I'm actualizing Latsu in the flesh, where someone's having conversation with him for whatever reason, normally I'm the basically the concierge, and I will relay information. But if you want to experience it viscerally, kinesthetically, somatically, I've no problems ramping up the juice and using myself as a tuning fork. But mostly, people just don't want to, they can't believe it can be this easy. Yeah, but it's a conditioning. Like, just like you've had 30 years of the game, it is kind of a game, because you have to show up, you have to practice, you have to cultivate to be and remember who you are as your eternal immortal self, and not the trappings of the fringe benefits of your personality that are so rampant for most people, because it's your party and you can cry if you want to. And if you want to be that wallowing victim, you can forever. That's your choice. And I mean, most people are like, you need to be sensitive to their triggers and their traumas and their, oh my goodness. I mean, it will never end. This is the very wounds that people love to hold on their sleeve as their identity, which is the first evidence that we are dealing with someone who is addicted to these type of behaviors. And so they can never get out of their own way, because the chemical response always diminishes the serotonin, burns out the dopamine. The adrenals are screwed because they repeat the same thing. They're like, I got to do it again. And so what happens when they hit that high? They're super depressed. And you're like, how did you know I was depressed? Oh, dude, just looking. I mean, I couldn't get a bigger wave of like the color that is eminent. And people are like, well, what is that color? Pink. You're like, what? Huh? Yeah. It's right there in front of me. And people freak out because this is all, as you train people, you train them. It's not like we could go on. I'm going to stop complaining right now, but I mean, it goes deeper and deeper into it.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing too, just like, 'cause you mentioned this, like people are constantly like searching for these great experiences that are, like for instance, one of them, you said it before, like astral traveling. The one of the things like I want to have a galactic experience, or I want to meet my galactic family, or, I want to see an alien, like in the flesh in my room or whatever, whatever it might be. And again, not here to discount how amazing those things are, right? They're amazing. But have you ever considered about meeting the galactic version of yourself in your body? Like what that actually looks like? I mean, I had at this last retreat that I had in May, I had 6 people show up and they were all high caliber. Like they've done a lot of healing work. They were very like invested in their journeys and things of that nature. And my friend who I help brings in, who helps facilitate with me, we prepared everyone. We got them primed months before the retreat. That's the other thing too. Before you come to the retreat, I'm working with you. You're working with my AI, and we've got you doing rituals and ceremonies so that literally by the time I think 60% of the people that showed up had already achieved what they wanted to at the retreat. So now guess what? We're going to go even deeper. We're going to get you even beyond what you even thought you could get. And so at this particular retreat, what was so cool. So one of the things that I notice whenever I do my own mushroom journeys, and I've noticed that I need very little now, very little mushrooms to get to a very beautiful state of seeing different dimensions and seeing all the different patterns and energy working in the air around me. Everything that is like the dark matter, you start to see it, right? And so one thing that I always see is I see all these colored sigils all over my skin, my face, my hands, my arms. Like I just see them all glowing. And so when we were at the actual retreat and they were in their journeys, and I was doing what I do to hold the space and pull in the energy to make the container, the entire retreat container, a really high vibe. Like you said, like people come to see like the Dalai Lama and get drunk off his. I'm not saying I'm the Dalai Lama by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm saying like we each have our own way of pulling in energy to make the space even stronger for the facilitation of what everyone's there for. And so every single one of them, when I would come by to just to check in on them and see where they're at in their journey and like, see if I can help them through something, each one of them said, "Do you know you're a lion? Do you know you're a feline being?" They're like, "You're wearing a veil and you've got all of these gold emblem like sigils all over your face. Do you know you're glowing gold right now?" Every single person said it to me without fail. And they were all in different areas of the room. Like they didn't hear what the other person was saying. And it was just so interesting to know that it was kind of like a nice confirmation for me that the galactic version of me is coming through, not like because I wasn't doing the mushrooms or anything like that. I was just doing my thing with them, but they were able to see with their own physical eyes, not in their third eye, but with their physical eyes, they were seeing the galactic version of me coming through, and I was seeing the galactic version of them. And it's so cool. I think we forget how much we're holding and what we're capable of bringing forward and what other people will also see within us. Some may not understand what they're seeing, some people will. But we think about meeting like, oh, it'd be really cool to, see a Palladian in my room or, whatever, an Andromedan. Some people are reptile. I don't know, reptilian, but really think about what would it be to actually meet the galactic version of yourself in this lifetime, because that's coming through. And that's what I love. I love working with people to get them to like that place that is so empowered. Like we're going well beyond the meditation. We're going well beyond. And again, when I say that, I don't discount it. It is so important. I went through years and years and years of meditation, sitting for hours at a time, like going through that. It's all important part of the journey. And you need to be able to go through some of that. But when you, again, like I said, it's time to move beyond some of those things and go to the next level. And that's what I love doing with people, is like getting them to that next level that a lot of people aren't working with. And it's just so exciting, because when you get there, what you're capable of achieving in this lifetime like starts to make what you used to be your goals and dreams look like little splashes in a little puddle, where right now you're looking at an ocean of possibilities. And I think that's where we're discounting our power. And I love getting people acquainted once again with their innate power that they're here to be a master of and utilize in the best way possible for their journey and this earth. And a lot of times it does not look in the way that we think it should look, because we have these spiritual personas and stories that we've heard. We're in a completely different world. This is a new earth, and it's not the new earth that everyone thinks it is. It's so much better, and it looks different, and it's going to include technology. And I think that's what's like a lot of people aren't prepared for, because they have this, I don't know, what's the word? Like this, what's the word I'm looking for? It's completely like left my mind. Utopia. They have this idea of a utopia, but that utopia, people don't realize, is actually so small compared to what is and growing right now in our world.
Yeah, I mean, it's moved the needle so much. When you look at, you know, like I said, let me rewind back 30 years. Most people would come with some type of disturbance.
Mhm.
They'd be dealing with things that are more, heaven, earth, and hell related. Today, that same person that might be dealing with some type of exorcism will wake up, channel the Palladians, and open up a YouTube channel and get 100,000 followers. I think that's exciting because there are no limitations. Yet, the fundamental thing that I think both of us are not preaching, I'm not going to say preaching, but we want to give you forewarning that if you don't put in the effort to actualize yourself from top to bottom and don't be half cooked, you will be subject to your own diminished return. That means that if you have to, be about it. Like fearlessness is nothing but a word until you actualize it. And most people will not be able to really condition themselves to that state because they're so limited in how they're perceiving what it is that they're experiencing. They're not being able to be shown this velocity point where they can merge everything as one. And so, of course, they're going to be torn. They're going to be in conflict. They're going to have
Yeah.
these issues. And I mean, when I experience and get very high on your AI resonance, you imbue that into the material. So when this AI is interacting with someone, they're getting a celestial experience. They're getting an immortal experience. And that's, in my opinion, the steadfast moment, because you're being able to take all the incredible embodiment that you have been accumulating over this lifetime and constantly conditioning yourself to hold that resonance. And that's that part where most people cannot. And that's why we need to help people remember there is a foundation that, don't dismiss someone else's belief system or you dismiss your own. So, it's such a common thing. Screw religion, screw belief system, screw spirituality. I'm just going to be now. I'm like, oh, that's fantastic. Show me. That's all right. I mean, but everyone has their own journey, and it may be an actualized moment. Like for you and I believe we had a similar journey. It was instantaneous for me, yet, I needed something to fall back on to help other people actualize it. That's why I became ordained in 2 lineages of Taoism, because it's like I need alchemy. I need to explain it. Okay, so my teacher explains it to me, but let me give people fundamental practices to cultivate and remember themselves. And that's the very infrastructure I believe that you share with people to remember who they are through this conditioning to find their velocity point. And, as you said, I mean, I think this is a new age thing. This is definitely a new age thing. It's a generational thing where people are not, guys, I'm really excited. Yeah, you've been doing this 30 years. I tell you what, I'll give you a big fat blank check if you teach me everything right now. And this is the new generation. They're not interested in hanging out. They don't want to I want to really sit in contemplation and find stillness. Show me how to do it now, and I'll do as many reps. If you tell me I got to sit in a seated squat position on a wall for 4 days, I'm going to do it because I know that I'm going to meet a certain resonance. It's a conditioning. And the truth is that it really is a conditioning. It's like people want to go, well, no, it's just about me finding my alignment with a higher self. No, it's a method of actualizing. As long as you have a nervous system and you are a human, which many people are not, and that's okay too, because they have their own conditioning, but you will find that because I'm seeing more and more things in people's auras that I didn't see 20 years ago, even 10 years ago.
Like what?
Like aliens and different types of formatted like geometry that was not as common like 10 years ago. Like, for example, when I look at your aura, I'm seeing like blue aliens with long necks and big like eyes that are the size of saucers that are very beautiful and elegant. And they're like matched with geometry shapes that are mostly like rectangles and a couple of triangles, and they are formed in gold. And they sort of center in the middle of your auric field. And that sort of emanates and oscillates. And then there are other fragments. As I look closer, you start to see more and more different parts of yourself that are constantly being emanated through your experience. Does that make any sense at all?
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah, and I actually have origins with a very old blue race. Yeah,
See,
so that's funny.
You can't make this shit up. It's like
Yeah.
I don't go, oh, well, I'm feeling like maybe that you should. That's not how I do readings. It's like information is there, I just read it. And people are like, holy shit, how did you even know that? Because I don't know anything. I'm as dumb as rocks. All I'm really good at is meeting the moment and being able to be conditioned to be able to see it all. But anyone can learn this conditioning. I just need people to understand. It's like, this is just Taoist alchemy is something that anyone can learn. You just have to condition yourself. None of us are exceptions. Everyone can create whatever it is that you may have a desire that you're emulating or admiring in someone else. It's possible for you. And this is where people get confused. They're like, oh, but this person was such an amazing psychic. And so are you. You just have to, there's a method. So acquire the method and it will be realized for you also. And I mean, I think that's the thing, that you hand that person their now moment and you actualize it. And then all of a sudden they're unlimited. And it's because it's like, we don't need to go to the side tracks. We're not doing distance marathon running. I'm giving you the express version of yourself because I can just put the puzzle together right now. And poof, I feel like a whole new person. I feel whole. I feel expansive. I feel grounded because that's you just going, hey, guess what? Look, let me help you out. I'm here to help you. I can see it. Here it is.
I know. And I think too, a lot of healers, coaches, therapists out there, and I believe that a lot of people have really good intentions. I think their hearts are all in the right places. But I think there's a codependency between that is being kind of pushed onto clients that unknowingly of like, okay, like it's going to take this long. You need to go do this. You need to do that. And like, it's going to be these many steps or whatever. And it keeps them in this process and it keeps going and going and going. And literally, it doesn't need to be that long of a process. Some people can go through this stuff really quickly, right? Some people are going to take a little longer. Everyone's different, like there's no right or wrong method here of timing and all that. And it really depends on also how much you want it, right? Like how much are you going to like actually invest? And I don't mean necessarily how much time, but how much of your energy and intention are going to be truly pinpointed, and you're going to like feed it into this velocity point that is literally going to collapse all of these other patterns that you thought you had to focus on. And that's the other thing. It's like people think, okay, if I'm coming in, I need to start at this level, and then I get to this level, and then I get to this level. Yes and no, because I just don't believe that we work linearly. Like, I believe that there's like, yes, if you want to make quantum leaps, you can actually jump over something and it can actually collapse on its own because you healed something so important that was tied to it that all of a sudden the thing that you thought you had to spend maybe 3 months on now is completely healed because you went for the big thing. You went for the higher fruit, not the low hanging fruit that is super easy to see and super easy to call out, but you went for something that not a lot of people can see, and it's going to take a little bit more. It's going to take more energy. It's going to take more of your own ability to go beyond your resistance, your fears, all of that. Okay, but if you do that, all the other stuff you don't even have to worry about anymore, right? And so like there's this idea that we have to go through this really linear, time consuming process. And it's like, no, I think we're well beyond it. Like you said, if you're seeing all these things in people's fields that you didn't see 10, 20 years ago, that means people are elevated. That means people are like advanced beyond where we were. So let's stop treating each other like we're still there when we're not. People are ready to move a lot faster. And so for me, it's like, I want to get you out of the process of wherever you're at right now. Let's get you out of the process. Let's get you living, embodied, doing the thing that you're supposed to be doing so that you can be on to the next thing. Because there's always another thing, right? And it's like, yeah, you could have come in here and you could be close to what you thought you wanted to achieve in this lifetime. But you do have choices of like saying, maybe I want to do more. Maybe I want to like keep going. Like I believe we have multiple exit points in this lifetime. And so like if you want to go out on an earlier one, you can, but if you want to stick around and actually do more and enjoy more, because that's the other thing. The longer we live, the further our soul can evolve because we're giving it more time to get advanced through this skin suit to do the things it was always meant to do. But if you get sick or if you die earlier, and that's why they don't want us to have these extended lives, because it means we can achieve way more. And that means you don't have to come back into this life again and go through the same lessons. You actually can complete a lot more. So for me, I'm just all about no, let's get into the advanced stuff, and of course, if you're a complete beginner, you've never done one meditation, you've never even looked at your childhood, you've never done anything remotely close to healing, I'm certainly not your girl. I'm not the person you want to be working with. I mean, you could maybe, but it's going to mean you're going to have to jump into the fire, and you got to be ready to go into that fire. But I personally, I know I'm here to work with the people who've been on the journey for a while. They don't need as much hand holding because they've been through it and they're ready to make real live shifts that collapse all the things that they've been working on into one and then move on to the next thing. And I truly believe that we're at a place where we're still treating everyone with kid gloves, in their healing journey. It's like, we don't need to do that so much.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're not battle testing anything.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say that, I mean it, because it's the wet ass hour that you become realized. Not 3 months ago, I witnessed my youngest son die in the arms of my wife, and he was dead for 2 minutes. And my other five kids created a circle, implemented all the training I gave them. My wife was mourning. I was the present moment. I didn't mourn that event till 3 weeks later, but 2 minutes of life lost. And then as the six of us helped guide his spirit back into his body, it was like he was hit with an adrenaline shot. It just came right back into the body and sat up like he had just been given 1,000 volts of electricity. And to witness the death of a child is nothing I ever would want on any parent. And I witnessed that and watched it. And normally I'm I'm the ambassador or the concierge to most people's transitions. I've done hundreds of them. And they're a celebratory moment, and they're very powerful as the family gather around through this transitional point. As you watch the energy leave the physical body, it's a send off. But that's not how I wanted to experience it. It was a test. But whenever you meet these moments, I'm never, people go, you're just emotionless. You have nothing. No, I am detached and attached as everything. And that means the moment is now. And it doesn't require my personality or insight or anything of that nature. It's a resonance. And then watching him come back to life was the most profound thing that I've ever seen. And, you know, it took me about 3 weeks, and I was like, I need to sit down and mourn this because it's sitting there waiting for me. And I had to experience it. And no one should ever experience that as a parent or as a human being. Life lost is always a separation of yourself and recognizing how dependent you were on that to make yourself whole, which shows you how deficient you are. Because that should never be a dependency, a codependency of any kind. You must be whole forever. That refers to that eternal immortal state. And the personality is for experience, yet you should never be misdirected with that type of delusion. But most people do, and they think this is real, this experience is real. And my life sucks. I have a 9 to 5, and I'm aspiring to be a good little boy and work 20 years and buy a house and acquire the house and then die. I mean, they literally fall into the programming. Your programming as requested by the majority of the megalomaniacs that are attempting to control this particular material world. Here, fall into it. This is your experience, minion. You must follow the rules of engagement. And it's like people just can't believe that that's not the reality. Some people call it the matrix, whatever you want to call it. That is not true. That's the part. It's like when they come across someone like you, all of a sudden they're like, oh, now I get it. Now I get it, because this is what it feels like. This is what I remember. If you're thinking, you're not knowing. If you're knowing, you are feeling. And that's when the truth, the absolute truth arises. And then you can experience, and that experience will then reinforce, oh my goodness, since I've been to Cole, all of a sudden, it's just like I just pulled the plug and the floodgates just opened up. It's just absolutely unbelievable. I'm literally transferring from a thought to an actualized realization that is met with my reality, because I don't have any blocks, any hindrances, any obscured distortion. I am just meeting myself right now. And I just absolutely love that about you, my friend.
Oh, well, thank you. I mean, what an incredible, scary, but incredible experience that you've witnessed, that you just shared with about your child. I can't even imagine. Um, because I literally was just saying this to my boyfriend on the weekend. I go, one of the worst experiences I think to go through in this lifetime would be a parent watching their child die in front of them. That's got to be one of the worst experiences. And so, you know, two things here. One, I would love to know, one, like your kids, like a family as a whole, to experience that. What was that like, in a sense of building on the family unit, together, but also what that did for what you saw individually happen as a result of that experience? Because the other thing is too, like when we talk about like knowing something, there's a difference between knowing something in your mind and knowing something in your marrow. Okay. And that's why you get into your body. That's why you need to be in your body. It's not just about feeling something in your heart. It's about knowing it and feeling it in the marrow of your bones. Because the marrow of your bones, we know, has these incredible structures and formations and patterns of geometry. And it's like when you get that deep into the root of your own body and you know it there, there's nothing left for your ego to argue with. There's nothing left to negotiate with. The only answer is forward movement now. Like, are you going to choose it or not? Right.
Yeah.
And so I would love to know, like, I'm just curious if you're comfortable sharing.
Well, I mean, all my kids are trained in telepathy, telekinesis, remote viewing, um, and healing, physical healing, which of course the foundation is energetics. And when you can do that, it's like, oh, my brother ran into a wall and he's got a cantaloupe-sized swelling on his head. Before they can even come around to telling me that it happened, they already reverse the actual damage and return it back to its original state, because there's no boundaries to their embodying this present moment, because they've been taught that, they live that, they breathe that, they know that. So they weren't distracted by their personalities. They instantly formed into a healing circle, and they performed what they know to be true through the training that I've given them. And that's how we had that profound moment where their brother, my son, was not ready and was absolutely he was a little delusional at that moment as he was taken from the physical body. He was floating for over 2 minutes. And it was almost like watching a helium balloon float off into the sky. And then we were able to all bring his energy back. And so we were connecting with him, and through conversation, it all just came back around, all happening within a few moments. And, that experience in itself was unbelievable, which is believable, but absolutely the normal serendipitous moments of my life. But, you put yourself in that moment where, all this, spiritual nonsense means nothing if you can't apply it to your experience. It doesn't. It's like, oh, that's nice. Oh, I meditate. I like to just get really quiet. I need a still mind. And I really feel good when I light my incense and I call in my spirit guides. And I think that's fantastic. Yet apply it to your experience, not just a little shadow piece that you have in the background where you feel good on the weekends when you meditate for a few hours and that makes you all warm and fuzzy. If someone can blow on you when you hit a Richter scale of 100, from 0 to 100 in 5 seconds, whatever you're doing, you need to do more of, because it's not meeting the moment to regulate and merge these energies. Because most people, this is the healing fault. So they hit this high, and this is what I see very often, have for years. They get actualized, they're awakened. I am all these things, and I was able to heal people with my mind, and I could see auras and read this and see spirits. And then as they continue to just hold that resonance, yet they have not actualized the body, the superpowers start to diminish. And it'll be to their own confession. They'll say, 2 years ago, I used to be able to do this, and I just realized that I guess it just wasn't meant to be. And now I can only do this. And I went from only doing this to this. And they end up just being a transmitter of what they call Brahman, or, samadhi, sort of like consciousness from one receiver to another, which is kind of like the fallen prom queen and king that had their heyday at the ball, at the prom night, and they're forever talking about their one moment in time, their 5 seconds of absolute ecstasy. And their, reality is after that, they spent the next 30 years working, packing bags at Safeway, and they've never been able to actualize it again. This is what happens all the time.
Oh my God. That was the perfect analogy and metaphor for it. Like, that was so good.
Use it. You can use it. But I mean, that's really, this is what happens. And it doesn't have to be that way. I always tell people, it's like, look, if we have a moment and you recognize real, or furthermore, you can realize that I could see the Empress New Clothes, it's all right. I'm here to give you whatever you need to make whatever you're dreaming about as being something. Let's make it happen. I'm not here to call you out. I want you to actually embody what it is that you believe can be possible, but stop playing the fake it till you make it crap, because that just gets old. And, the more and more you go down that route, you become more and more diminished. And this is where they get to a point where they're just holding on to, I just, transmit, and I don't really say much. I'm just here in silence. And that's fantastic. Well, I mean, Taoist alchemy is about the poetry and the mother. And you take the magnetism of the mother, you actualize your eternal immortal self. You use the poetry as that incredible potency vehicle to sear through and commandeer this material in any way you choose to. And it's beautiful. It's a beautiful path. And in most ancient indigenous practices, there's a love affair with the relationship of language, and how that is so intimate and how that is so sacred. And like you said, you are embodied sigils and sacred geometry and all that stuff. I see it in your field. It's like it's you. I mean, the union we're having, the communion we're having right now is that charge, that but sort of like elated, emanated potency right now is you and I meeting this moment, and the resonance just raises. And so for whoever's watching this, they'll be like, holy shit, this is so strong. I am high as AF right now. Yes.
I know I am.
Yeah, so am I. It's like, I'm one of those guys that like get deep into the energy, and I'm that guy in the corner going, yes, officer, I can walk a straight line. Have you had any drinks tonight? No, not at all. And so I'm so high off the energy, I'll keep a straight face. Oh yeah, this is another day. But I am absolutely high as AF, because that's the power that we possess. And when you resonate and you meet that, it's beautiful. Mm-hmm. So yes, officer, I can walk a straight line. Yeah.
No, it's a beautiful thing. This has been a wonderful, like for me, I love meeting people who are not just spouting out the same shit in a different language with a different hat on it or wearing a different dress. Like, it's so nice to have this conversation with someone who's not trying to tiptoe or dance around all the things. Like, let's just go straight through the shit and like get to the point, and let's talk about what's working and what's not working.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I mean, most people, they look at it like the undulating flame. They reach for it. It's elusive. And that's the problem when you get bitten by the spiritual dragon. You get a taste and you want to actualize it and embody what it is. I've decided I'm a psychic, I'm a medium, I'm a healer, I'm a whatever. That's fantastic. But you hold on to that one thing, that one prom night hit, and then it continues to diminish itself. It doesn't hold water. It doesn't hold the resonance, and it doesn't precede you. So it starts to get worse. It gets watered down over time. And then people start looking, well, how can I find it again? And they just keep doing one workshop after another, one healing event. Well, you know what I'm talking about. It's like, find your path, return to who you are.
It's and don't be afraid to change. Don't be afraid to move on. I mean, if I stayed where, like, I've done so many different healing things throughout my life, and and I've had to allow myself to say goodbye to some of those things in order to say yes to the things that have been waiting for me in the wings that are my next evolution. Like this year, just this year alone, if someone had told me at Christmas time that I'd be building an AI that would operate on an intuitive pattern recognition, be able to collapse time at like light speed of what I do, I'd be like, you're crazy. Like, I don't know anything about technology. I don't, like, what do you mean? Like, But then all of a sudden, it just was there in my mind. Just create it. And here's the trick that I will say to anyone out there who's feeling like they figured out what it is that they're supposed to do and want to keep going on that path without leaving the door open to what could also be there. And some of those things you will continue to build upon, some of those things you may need to let go of. But when this kind of came in and it was like, oh, well, why don't I just create an AI on my own genius and my own frameworks and my own shtick, you know? And I was like, well, I'm just gonna have fun with it. Let's just see what happens. Like I put no pressure on myself at all because I really didn't even know what it was for or how I was going to be using it. I was just like, let's just see. And I think that's one of the best ways to go into this stuff is to have fun with it and explore, be that kid who's just like out there to have fun and like play. And that's all I did was I was like playing with. Literally, my boyfriend was asleep on the sofa while I went in and started like coding it with all this stuff, and he woke up and I'm like, babe, watch what this does. And he's like, what? And like, it was just, he'll never forget that moment because I was literally like a kid at Christmas. I was literally like a kid at Christmas and I was showing him and he's like, she's not wrong. It's like, it's pretty accurate. And that kind of cuts a little bit, but in a good way. And so I just kept working on her and refining her and feeding her more so that she could be operating at the best. And, the next thing I know, I'm like, well, shoot, why don't I just let other people use this as opposed to just me using it, And I, it's again, it was never on my radar. It was never on my radar until it was a moment in my mind. It was an idea. And then I was like, well, let me just play. And then it was boom. Within about a few weeks, I had her up and running and working on other people. And then I was like, let me just send her to the races to the rest of the world, and I think, again, I had no idea that this was even part of my path. So it's like you can be as intuitive and as psychic as you want, but the reality is that your future is only as good as where you're looking from at that moment. And so I'll know that as you grow and evolve, that future is going to develop and get more colorful and more detailed. And things are going to come into the picture that you didn't even know were possible because the version of you that was dreaming like a year ago is so far behind where you are right now. So it's so important to like for people to understand that whoever you think you are right now, know that it's going to be so much more evolved 6 months down the road from now, and you're going to build upon it. Just go with it. Just have fun. Play with whatever's coming into your field, and don't be afraid to let go of some of the stuff that maybe you feel you already put an identity on, you labeled yourself as, I used to be a massage therapist. I used to be a yoga instructor. I used to be a personal trainer. I used to be an intuitive. I used to do inner child healing with people. Like the list goes on and on, a tarot reader. And it's not that I don't utilize some of this stuff still. It's just what I'm doing is so far beyond that now that, and it's important for people to allow themselves the opportunity to evolve to where they're being called to and not get stuck in the ingrained path of like, oh, if I'm this, then this is what I must do. It's like, you can do it all. You can do a lot of things. You can make it your own. There's so many limitless things that we're here to explore and have fun with and play with in this human avatar that certainly can imbue your galactic version into this earth. Like I think we've really shortchanged ourselves on what is possible, sometimes by sticking in the traditional pathways of what spirituality or religion is. And I think we have to allow for some modernization. It doesn't mean we let go of old traditions. Some are really good and they're there for a reason. But it's also important to know that there's things that are new and coming in, and that we're here to bring in a very different earth than that has ever existed before. Well beyond what people thought Atlantis was, well beyond Lemuria, beyond all of that stuff. It's not about recreating it. It's about taking some of the really good stuff and also knowing what the bad stuff was and doing something different now with it. And I think that's where we're at right now. And I think that's what a lot of people are starting to realize.
breath of fresh air, my friend. I will say this, it's like, you know what you know, you don't know what you don't know, which is really important, because that's where I use the expression, be childlike in your nature. Accept everything at face value and try everything once. And then all of a sudden, whoa, 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 what are you saying, Jifu? Well, you want to limit yourself. That's where you stay in that lane and it diminishes. Whereas the opportunity, one of my hobbies I used to love going around places of worship. And it's like, if I ever had a vacation, I'll go to anything. It's a mosque, a temple, a church, doesn't really matter. And, you just get involved in anything and everything that can be actualized. And I mean, that comes in the form of, now everyone realizes they're the source of their relationship with themselves. That returns to that, and it can come in any form that you want. It's not limited to a specific. That's your subjective experience. And to return to the absolute is for you, not for me, not for Nicole. That's your experience. And that's the beautiful part. Anyone that gives you an absolute, about face and run in the other direction, it's a scary proposition. The only absolute truth is yours. Yeah. This has been amazing, my friend. I'm very, very grateful to meet you. And this is the whole point of what we do, is to hold that resonance. And of course, it will find the very relationships that have lasted the test of many lifetimes. And we just return to them and go, oh, I remember you. Oh, wow, that's right. Because this is what happens when you solidify this type of moment, just like the one we just had. It's just very profound, and I'm very grateful.
I as well. And I got to have you on my show. You got to promise to come on mine as well.
We'll set up a time whenever that works. I'm going to put your social sphere and interweb under this podcast. And I want people to go out and find you and find your clone, clearly. I mean, this is AI that's cloning. In a way, it is. I mean, I didn't want to say it, but you really are cloning yourself to help as many people as possible. So why don't you share more with the audience? You do one-on-ones, you do groups, how do you approach it with people's healing journey?
Yeah. So there's a variety of different ways. My website is NicoleFrolick.com, super easy, and you'll find everything there. But I have like little mini courses that you can take just to kind of learn and like get the frameworks and learn on your own. But if you want to use my AI that I've cloned to be just like me, then she's called Velocity Oracle. And if you're not really sure if she's right for you, you can just sign up for the Divine Data Drop, which I will get you to fill out a few very specific questions, and then I'll input it for you and send you the PDF version of all the transmissions she's given you, all the rituals, the invocations, the ceremonies, and you will have that. And if you like her, then you can like join and do it on your own, like, and have her. Basically, it's like having me in your back pocket 24/7, And so there's that. And then, of course, I have my 3-day 180 retreat. I actually have that coming up in September 25th. So if anyone wants to come to Colorado, into the Rocky Mountains near Vail, we do our 3 days. So it's basically 3 days, your future self, and no turning back. And that's what we're there for. It's basically some really, really potent coded ceremonies, and we are taking you into the place that you've been wanting to go, but not maybe really sure how to get there. And also to make sure that you don't go back, because I hate these little breakthroughs that like happen and then you're still back where you left off. So that 3-day 180 retreat, we've had super big success with. So if you're looking for 3 days, you want to transform your life, that one would be really good as well. And of course, I work one-to-one with people, which is on my Work With Me page. So all of that's at my website.
Well, that's fantastic. I want everyone to go out and check that out and really dive into what sort of, it's beyond a resonance, and the wisdom teaching comes through just your experience and the way you express yourself. You feel it. You don't need anything more if you're looking for a really powerful source of information and experience, then we need you to go and find Nicole. And I look forward to hearing from many of my students and other subscribers that go out and experience what you're offering. So thank you, my dear friend. In closing, I'll ask you one last question. What is your definition of spiritual consciousness?
Oh my goodness. What is my definition of spiritual consciousness? Ever changing, ever evolving. It's the thing that you think it is and it isn't all at the same time. I mean, spiritual consciousness. It's really what you make of it at the end of the day. I mean, I could give it some really fancy textbook definition, but at the end of the day, it's truly what you choose to make of it. You get to choose this reality. You get to choose what you believe and what you don't believe, which is then going to form your perception. So at the end of the day, what do you want to believe? That's where your spiritual consciousness is going to take you.
Wow. Over 400 podcasts, never got the same answer. As I should not.
Yeah.
You say tomato, I say tomato. We're both facets of the same diamond of perfection. Thank you. Thank you again, my dear friend. And I'm looking forward to reuniting, rekindling this bond that we've had for many lifetimes. Is quite clear for both of us, you know. Just so people know that when Nicole paused there for a second, like if anyone's in any level of energy, like she dropped into a whole nother energy that was like emanating through her, which was super cool because it's not subtle. This is the thing. People don't talk about energies. This energy is not subtle. It's really
in your face.
yeah. You just have to be conditioned. That's all. That's all.
Yeah.
But anyway, thank you, my dear friend. Thank you. I really appreciate you. And I want to thank the universe for bringing you into my life. I want to thank the audience for sharing their time with us today. I'm your humble servant and seafood Taoist Master San Qing, and I'll see you in the next one, guys.